Okay, let's go ahead with the prophet. This is a situation of men in the modern civilization. According to the Vedic culture, Brahmanas do not possess anything. Yeah, so according to the Vedic culture, the Brahmanas do not possess anything, whereas Kshatriyas possess riches, but only for performing sacrifices and other noble activities as prescribed in the Vedic injunctions. A Vaishya also earns money honestly through agriculture, cow protection, and some trade. If a Shudra gets money, however, he will spend it lavishly without discrimination or simply accumulate it for no purpose. Because in this age, there are no qualified Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, or Vaishyas. Almost everyone is a Shudra, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. Therefore, the Shudra mentality is causing great harm to the modern civilization. A Shudra does not know how to use money. A Shudra does not know how to use money to render transcendental loving service to the Lord. Money is also called as Lakshmi, and Lakshmi is always engaged in the service of Narayan. Wherever there is money, it must be engaged in the service of Lord Narayan. Everyone should use his money to spread the great transcendental movement of Krishna consciousness. If one does not spend money for this purpose, but accumulates more than necessary, he will certainly become proud of the money he illegally possesses. The money belongs to Krishna, who says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. I am the true enjoyer of sacrifices and penances, and I am the owner of all the planets. Therefore, nothing belongs to anyone but Krishna. Unless money needs, spend it. Unless one does so, he will become puffed up because of his false possessions, and therefore he'll be punished in the next life, as described herein. We can see here very beautifully. Now, as we are reading these description of the hellish planets, actually this chapter, uh, rather than taking it from a fearful or a fear-striking perspective, we can see this particular chapter from the point of view. See, the tenets and the principles and the aphorisms which are mentioned in the chapter here, they are very much like a Vaishnava etiquette manual. That they're very much like the Vaishnava etiquette manual. So, what should be the uh, the divine behavior, the transcendental behavior or behavior which is pleasing to the Supreme Lord. We can see from here. So as we're reading these beautiful verses, and definitely it is speaking from the connotation that okay, this is what should be done, and if this is not done, then this is the hell where the punishment is given, and this is the kind of punishment given. So it is speaking from that perspective, but the principle what they are talking about, what should be done, is nothing but a Vaishnava etiquette manual. We're talking about divine etiquettes. So here in this verse, we are learning about wealth and how wealth can make a person very, very intoxicated. The Prabhupada is explaining, person becomes proud. So when a person gets wealth, person becomes proud. The Prabhupada is explaining that you see the mentality. Yeah, see a Shudra is characterized by lack of discrimination. So the Shudra is a person who cannot discriminate between good and bad, right and wrong. And therefore, the wealth comes to Shudra, he doesn't know how to use it. So either he'll spend it for sense gratification or he'll go on accumulating it for no reason. So therefore, now this is being explained that okay, such a mentality is a sinful mentality. Such a mentality is a sinful mentality. Such a mentality is a sinful mentality. So such a person is simply entangling oneself more and more. So Prabhupada is explaining that the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas, they deal with wealth, but only for the purpose of welfare activity. And the Brahmanas, they don't possess wealth. So, uh, so therefore, a Shudra should not be given wealth. Because the Shudra will do a lot of harm. By that wealth, the Shudra is going to do a lot of harm and damage to the society. And that is what is happening in the world actually. So the money should be offered to Krishna's service. That is what we are understanding. The money should be offered to Krishna's service. So we can see from the standpoint of the Shastras, sometimes people say that okay, I am not doing any damage to anybody, uh, but I am using some upright means and I am honestly and I am earning money and I'm just enjoying with that money. What is wrong which I am doing? So if you see the description of Bhagavatam, from the standard of Bhagavatam, this itself is sinful activity. Because not engaging in welfare activities is itself a sinful activity. Like that. Yeah, so it's itself a sinful activity. As I was saying, that the resources of the Lord, we cannot take the resources of the Lord and not give it back to the Lord. That is thievery. But then we can again see that okay, the living entities in this material world are suffering. So if somebody thinks that okay, no, I don't care. So if somebody is dying on the street, and if the passerby doesn't care, then he's as much involved in the so that neglect is sinful. It's crime. So somebody is dying, and if we don't go to save them, then so either we are on the savior party or the murderer party. So not doing anything means not engaging in welfare activities is a sinful activity. But Prabhupada speaks one more beautiful point in the purport here. Srila Prabhupada is explaining that when a person gets hooked on to wealth and the person starts identifying with his wealth, and not only person is intoxicated, not only lust and greed increases, that is happening. But then another thing what Prabhupada says, Srila Prabhupada is explaining is that now to be able to grow that wealth and maintain that wealth, one will be forced to perform numerous sinful activities. That is the point. Numerous sinful activities because the wealth doesn't come on its own. So therefore, if the attachment is towards the wealth and the hankering is to grow the wealth, a lot of sinful activities one may traverse. That is the point. So that is why one has to be very, very careful about the wealth. So first of all, uh, and that is why it is very detrimental for a devotee to identify with wealth. Because we identify with it, we want to grow it, we want to preserve it, and that will force a person to perform. And not only it saps away the time which the devotee will have for serving Krishna, but one will be forced to traverse the sinful trajectories, which is very, very dangerous. So that is why wealth should be offered to Krishna.
And the wealth for a devotee is Dhananara Nityananda.
Yes.
Patinath.
Because one should always remember there is uh, so there was one disciple, Srila Bhakti Maharaj. His name was Jagat Bandhu. So this Jagat Bandhu Prabhu, all his life's earnings, he offered to his spiritual master. He said everything, including his home, his wealth, his everything, and he only had a suitcase of clothes. So, so he offered everything to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. And he was begging and pleading, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. He said, Maharaj, please accept all this. And Maharaj said, "Arey, you didn't keep anything, single penny for yourself. Where are you going to eat? Where are you going to stay? You're not considering anything." He said, "No, no, no. This is all what I have collected and what I have." And so he said, he said a very beautiful point. And he was pleading Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj to accept. He said, in offering everything what I have to you, I am offering myself to you. That's what he said. So then, now Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Maharaj arranged that, okay, he stayed in the same, Gaudiya Math, in a room there throughout his life. So, but he offered everything. So, in offering myself everything to you, and offering everything what I have to you, I am offering myself to you. That was his mood and consciousness. Jagat Bandhu Prabhu. So because of his offering everything, the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math came actually. That was the offering of Jagat Bandhu. That became the headquarters of. So before that, Ultadanga was a rented property, but then the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math, which came up, which was a very beautiful structure, and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Maharaj could uh, manifest a lot of, I mean, could actually give shape to a lot of pragmatic preaching from there. So it was a big monument and a lot of teaching, a lot of dioramas and so on. Which is answered Thakur Maharaj, Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math. That was whole property was donated by one devotee. So that is the right utilization of wealth, to offer it to Krishna. Because if you don't offer it to Krishna, it will create havoc. So anything not offered to Krishna is going to create havoc. But if it's offered to Krishna, it can become such a beautiful offering.
I like that part when you said that when you said by offering the wealth, I'm offering myself to you.
Yeah.
So people think they are surrendered, but if they are keeping separate possessions, then how they are surrendered? Because this is what surrender by Bali Maharaj.
Yes.
So Vaman Dev pura liye.
So therefore, Jagat Bandhu Prabhu said, so now I have become your property. I have rightfully and lawfully become your property because I have offered everything I had to you. So that was his mood and consciousness.
Like Bali Maharaj.
Mm. That was mood and consciousness. Let's read further. Text 37.
Yes.
There's some internet problem. No, some internet.
This is 5. This is 5. 5.
37.
Oh, no, 5.5.1 पे
5:26:37. Okay, so I think I have to read it from somewhere else. Okay, or maybe
I'm
I'll switch
reading.
on.
मौका है तो बात बात
ठीक है, read.
Read. Yes.
Yes. So what is that? Okay. So there are some internet issues, it seems. Evam vida narakaya malaye shanti satasa sahasrasasteshu sarveshu cha sarva eva dharma vartino ye kechit ihodita haribo anuditaschavani pate paryayena vishanti tataiva dharmanuvrtina इह पुनर्भवेन उभयाशेषाभयं निविशन्ति. My dear King Parikshit,
You have to actively participate in the mission of the Lord. My dear King Parikshit, in the province of Yamaraj, there are hundreds and thousands of hellish planets. The impious people I have mentioned, and also those I have not mentioned, must all enter these various planets according to the degree of their impiety. Those who are pious, however, enter other planetary systems, namely the planets of demigods. Nevertheless, both the pious and impious are again brought to earth after the results of their pious or impious acts are exhausted. Means there is no permanent residence for God. Purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This corresponds to the beginning of Lord Krishna's instruction in Bhagavad Gita, Katha Dehantra Prapti. Within this material world, one is simply meant to change from one body to another in different planetary systems. Urdhvam Gachanti Satvasa, those in the mode of goodness are elevated to the heavenly planets. Adho Gachanti Tamasa, similarly, those who are engrossed in ignorance enter the hellish planetary systems. Both of them, however, are subjected to the repetition of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that even one who is very pious returns to the earth after his enjoyment in the higher planetary systems is over. Sheena punya martyalokam vishanti. Therefore, going from one planet to another, India to America to Canada to Australia, and then coming back to India, doesn't make any sense. Therefore, going from one planet to another does not solve the problems of life. The problems of life will only be solved when we no longer have to accept a material body. This can be possible if one simply becomes Krishna conscious. Simply wonder. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chami divyam nevam yavetti tatpata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the perfection of life and the real solution to life's problem. We should know in such a way that we have to go to the hellish planets. The complete purpose of this material world will be fulfilled when we resume our spiritual identities and go back home, back to God. The very simple method for doing this is prescribed by the Supreme Personality of God. Once you go to the lotus feet of Krishna, this surrendering process is also very easy. Even a child can perform it. Manmana Bhagmad Bhakta. They are just Hare Rama, Hare Rama. 40 worship of our senses to him. Thus, one should engage all the activities of his life in the service of Lord Krishna. Thank you. Attentively, I could hear because I was only.
Hare Krishna. So, okay, so So here we are learning that one should not simply remain moving around or roaming around in this material world. Moving around or roaming around in this material world. Okay, so in the province of Yamaraj, there are hundreds of thousands of hellish planets. The impious people I have mentioned, and also those I have not mentioned, must all enter these various planets according to the degree of the impiety. And those who are pious, however, enter other planetary systems, namely the planets of the demigods. Nevertheless, both the pious and the impious are again brought to earth after the results of their pious and impious acts are exhausted. Okay. So after giving this list of all the hellish planets, the after giving this entire list of the hellish planets, now what is being described? So Sukadeva Maharaj describing that in this way the living entity is simply going up and down, up and down. Either one is targeting towards going to the heavenly planet, or one or by one's unrestricted sinful activities, one is gliding down to hellish planets. So we see that this entire flux or commotion which the living entity is having is simply because of the stubbornness to not accept Krishna consciousness. Everything in this material world is temporary. So this is like this is the but the living entity is so naughty and notorious, and because of the notorious activity attitude of the living entity is going up and down. Whether it is urdhvam gachanti sattva saha, whether it is the heavenly planets, that is also not a that is also temporary, and whether it is a hellish planet, so that is also a temporary profile. See, hellish planets, Krishna sends only for a temporary period of time, and then again brings them back to the earthly planet to give them a chance. So Krishna second chance, third chance, fourth chance, infinite chances. And heavenly planet is anyways a temporary place. Gushine punye martya lokam vishan. As soon as the pious credits are over, then one has to come back to this martya loka or this material world. So, what is the need for all this? What is the need for all this? Yeah, what is the need for wasting one's time and energy and life just tossing about? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatarishanam. Iha sansare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare. What is the use of simply going around? This, like Prabhupada says, this is the Ferris of the wheel. This is the Ferris wheel. One is just simply going up and down and up and down and up and down, and all that notorious. That is all there, and this cycle continues. Unfortunate cycle continues unless and until the living entity starts investing one's mind, one's consciousness in the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying that we have to know about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna has given such a nice program that we can leave all other activities and have only one business, that is to serve Krishna. And Prabhupada is saying that is very easy. One just has to think of Krishna always. And how to do that? And Prabhupada is saying, Man manabha mad bhakto madhyaji manavaskru. By chanting the holy names, we can do that. So yes, our life's purpose gets fulfilled and becomes valuable and substantial when we start living a life based on the holy name and the holy glories of the Lord. So that should be our basis. The holy name and the holy glories of the Lord should be our basis. That should be our main identity, not the so-called useless designations or the temporary flickering transient designations. What we keep collecting are all these material accolades. Okay, I am an IIT graduate. Now I'm a Microsoft engineer, or so on and so forth. Those accolades are transient. That is like a lollipop.
That should be integrated with the
No, that's like a lollipop. So that is not going to be that. That is just a transient passing phase. But our actual identity should be, our actual basis should be the holy names, the chanting of the holy names.
I remember two by this. One is Dhruv Maharaj. So Dhruv Maharaj was hankering for what, and later he said, I was hankering for the broken pieces
Yeah,
of
broken
glass.
pieces of glasses. Kanchan, Vichin, Mahan. Dhruva Maharaj, yes.
The whole life we keep hankering for the things like broken pieces of glasses. And the body doesn't stay with us.
Yes.
And the
So-
second, I was remembering Pratap Rudra Maharaj. Till the time he was carrying the designations, he didn't get the mercy of Chaitanya
Yeah,
Mahaprabhu.
Pratap Rudra Maharaj. Because Pratap Rudra Maharaj was identifying with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he was thinking, what is the use of being a king? I will leave all the kingdom. I will leave my body if I don't get the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the price which one has to pay to get the mercy of Lord Sri
And
Chaitanya
we said
Mahaprabhu.
we'll give up mala if we don't get
Yeah.
placement of our choice.
Yeah. See, in this whole material world, we keep running after competition. It's a competition of CGPA, it's a competition of getting a better job and this and that. Actually, this whole competition is going up, going down, where we want to go up, but sometimes we have to glide down. We're going up, we're going down. So everyone is trying to go up, but somebody is able to go up, but somebody is accelerating, and somebody is being overtaken by somebody else, so it's going back. So this kind of this kind of competition is the same thing. Urdhvam gachanti satvasa, adho gachanti tamasaha. This is the same thing which is being described, that coming under this sway of modes, we are either acing or we are either progressing or receding. Yeah. So this kind of racing. Now, why this kind of race? Why is the living entity so restless, moving around here and there, going up, going down, overtaking, being overtaken? What is happening? What is the living entity want to achieve? This is what the message of Shastra. What is the living entity wanting to achieve by all this racing and acing and facing?
And ultimately, death phase.
Yeah. What is the living entity wanting to achieving? He's achieving. The living entity doesn't achieve anything. The living entity simply wants to hold on to his or her own stubbornness, that I don't want to connect to Krishna. And for that, the living entity is running in the 14 planetary systems. The Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam is running in the 14 planetary systems, just to maintain that stubbornness that I can do without Krishna. What an unfortunate saga of melancholy and misfortune. What a misfortune that this living entity simply maintaining that stubbornness, that I can manage without Krishna. So that is why Krishna is, out of immense mercy, the Lord is saying, oh, better leave everything, all kinds of your conceptions and thought processes and ideologies. And just raise your hand and say, no, that is what the acharyas recommend. And all we have to do is, simply say to Krishna that, Krishna, I cannot do without you. I cannot do without you. So, Krishna, I cannot do without you. This is the kind of consciousness which one has to come true. That is the point.
While you were discussing this, the two Vaishnav song that reverberated in my mind.
Yes.
But that saga of Melancholy. Hari Hari Vipule Janam Gunaina. One is that Hari Hari Vipule Janam Gunaina. Manusya Janma Paya Radha Krishna na Bhajiya Janiya Shiniya Vishakaina. And another is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, अति तुच्छ भोग आशे बंदी होए माया पाशे रहिल विकृत भावे दंडे जथा पराधीन आरे केनु maya jale. So now we know ISKCON is there, Prabhupada is there, Prabhupada's disciples are there, but we are still caught up in the maya jal. We are postponing surrender to Krishna. We are postponing the alignment of our desires with the desires of Krishna. This is what in 2.61 तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्तासीत् मतपरा वशे हि यस्य इन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. So they are matpara, do everything in relationship to me. And Prabhupada is giving the example of Ambarish Maharaj. And there Ambarish Maharaj is telling कि not कामस्तु ना, उनका जो कामना है, इच्छा है, वो भगवान की इच्छा के अतिरिक्त उनकी कोई और इच्छा नहीं है.
Yes. So okay, so let us read further then. Yes, Haribol.
हमारे पास we are taking mercy cheaply. That's why we are not able to
Yes.
grasp. We are denying prasad.
Text 38 then?
Yes. Oh, again, but again. भगवान जाते हैं अच्छे से आगे.
Yes.
38 ही था, 39 था.
38.
Sure. 38 साथ में ही था. ये तो हमने पढ़ लिया ना. निवृत्ति लक्षण मार्ग.
No, 38 we have not read.
Please read.
Therefore 38. निवृत्ति लक्षण मार्ग अदव एव व्याख्यातः तवेव व्याख्यातः एतावानेवन्दकोशो यस् चतुर्दशाधपूरणेषु विकल्पित उपगीयन्ते यत्तद्भगवतो नारायणस्य साक्षान्महापुरुषस्य आविष्टं रूपमात्मय गुणमयम् अनुवर्तिना अद्रितः पठन्ति पाठति शृणोति श्रवयति स उपगेयम् भगवता परमात्मनो ग्राह्यमपि श्रद्धा भक्ति विशुद्ध बुद्धिर्वेद.
In the beginning of the second and third cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, I have already described how one can progress on the path of liberation. In the Puranas, the vast universal existence, which is like an egg divided into 14 parts, is described. This vast form is considered the external body of the Lord, created by his energy and qualities. It is generally called the Virat Rupa. If one reads a description of this external form of the Lord with great faith, or if one hears about it or explains it to others to propagate Bhagavad Dharma or Krishna consciousness, his faith and devotion in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, will gradually increase. Reads, hears, and explains to others. Although developing this consciousness is very difficult, by this process one can purify himself and gradually come to an awareness of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Krishna consciousness movement is pushing forward the publication of Srimad Bhagavatam as explained especially for the understanding of the modern civilized man. to awaken him to his original consciousness. Without this consciousness, one melts into complete darkness, whether one goes to the upper planetary systems or the hellish planetary system. He simply wastes his time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Therefore, one should hear of the universal position of the Virata form of the Lord as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that will help one save himself from the material conditional life and gradually elevate him to the path of liberation so that he can go back home, back to Godhead. Brahmanan Bhuvanan Loke Punaravitana Arjuna Mam Rupete Konte Punarjanana Vidyate Nam Vina Kichu Nahi Ke Aada Choda Bhuvan Maj. Only Vasudeva is Krishna and Krishna said. Thank you. ध्यान से नहीं सुना आपने?
The process of Krishna consciousness is foolproof. That is why if one is just engaged in this process of Krishna consciousness, everything is going to be supplied, or everything will work out in due course of time. Therefore, one of the principles of Sharanagati is Rakshishyati iti Vishwas. Rakshishyati avashya rakshipe Krishna iti Vishwasapala. That Krishna will always protect me. How? By allowing me to practice the process of Krishna consciousness. And this Krishna consciousness, process of Krishna consciousness, is all in all. That means no matter whatever extent of conditioning one has, if one is simply engaged in the practice of Krishna consciousness, one will be purified. And that is why, for one who is committing oneself to the process of Krishna consciousness, such a person should have full confidence that yes, even though this material world is insurmountable, but because I am engaged steadfastly in the practice of Krishna conscious activities, I will be able to cross over this material world. Ahantarishyami dudantapara tamo mukundangri nishevayeva. So the devotee should have that confidence that yes, although this material world is an ocean and I have no capacity to combat it, still, by the mercy of the Lord, and my spiritual master, because I know the art of remaining engaged in Krishna's service, and by that, just by that, just I will be able to cross over to a place which is which is insurmountable, difficult to overcome. I am going to get delivered on Krishna. I'm going to cross it not on my own strength, but on the strength of the activities of devotion and service. That level of dependence one should have on this on one's practice of the sadhana. Now, with that fervor of dependence, one should embark on one's sadhana. That this Krishna Gatha and holy name, which I am taking, this Krishna Gatha or holy name which I am taking, this itself will take me back to Godhead, beyond all my conditionings. So therefore, we are saying, here it is being described that even if it is a glorification of the external feature of the Lord, that also is potent to invoke loving devotional feelings towards Krishna. And in this way, the devotee goes on to develop loving feelings towards the Supreme Personality of God. So it is said here that one should hear of the universal position of the Virat form of the Lord, and that will help save one from the material conditional life and gradually elevate him to the path of liberation so that he can go back home, back to Godhead.
नित्य सिद्ध कृष्ण प्रेम साध्य कबु नाही श्रवणादि शुद्ध चित्ते कर उदय. So Krishna prema is nitya siddha. Only we have to hear, keep on chanting, hearing, and associating with devotees, and we'll experience the transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness. And for preaching also, it's not our individual yogita. Srila Prabhupada said, Name khub daro. Faith in the holy name and faith in the mercy of the spiritual master. And that makes our life perfect. Hari Bol. Yes.
Okay, so let's read further. This is text 39 now.
This is easy. Shrutva sthulam tatha suksham rupam bhagavato yati. Shrutva sthulam tatha suksham rupam bhagavato yati. Sthulam nirjitam atmanam shane suksham dhiya nayadeti nayadati. Yeah. One who is interested in liberation, who accepts the path of liberation and is not attached to the path of conditional life, anasaktasya vishya, is called yati or a devotee. Such a person should first control his mind by thinking of the Virat Rupa, the gigantic form, universal form of the Lord, and then gradually think of the spiritual form of Krishna, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, after hearing of both forms. Thus, one's mind is fixed in samadhi, sayatmika buddhi. By devotional service, one can then realize the spiritual form of the Lord, which is the destination of devotees. Thus, his life becomes successful. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charna Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada जी के द्वारा Srila Prabhupada की जय. It is said, Mahatsevadvaram ahurvamukte tamodvaram yoshite shangi sangha.
Progresses.
If one progresses in the path of liberation, he should associate with Mahatmas or liberated devotees, because in such association there is full chance for hearing, describing, and chanting about the name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of which are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. On the path of bondage, one eternally undergoes the repetition of birth and death. One who desires liberation from such bondage should join the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and thus take advantage of the opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from devotees and also explain it to propagate Krishna consciousness. So he's a Mahatma. Mahatmanastu Maam Partha Devi Prakriti Ashruta Bhajati Ananya Manaso. And what was the other definition? महात्मा का और क्या? बहुनाम जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान माम प्रपद्यते वासुदेव सर्वमिति परमात्मा सुदुर्लभः. One who is beyond the modes, taking shelter or associating with such devotees, will make us free from the modes, influence of the modes of material nature. Association matters, even if we are initiated, but if we are doing a satsang, then that Kunti Maharani says, हम साथ में ही पानी डाल रहे हैं, तो आध्यात्मिक अग्नि कैसे प्रज्वलित होगा. इसलिए इतने साल माला करने पे भी, इतने साल दीक्षा लेने पे भी, इतने साल भक्तों के संग में रहने पे भी क्यों आगे नहीं बढ़ पाते हैं? क्योंकि हम असत संग नहीं छोड़ते और ना ही असत इच्छा और ना ही असत को लालसा, वो सब नहीं छोड़ते हैं. इसलिए oh, this is not here. This is there in my room. Continue. I have already gone out. I shall bring that, no problem. मेरे पास है.
ठीक है, बैग में शायद देखने भी हो सकता है। So, you see, this is the nature of ignorance. That in ignorance, one doesn't know what is truly beneficial for a person, and therefore one chases and runs behind that which is detrimental to a person. It's just like a child may eat anything, a small 1 year child may eat anything which comes in their hand, even if it is an insect or even if it is something which may be a chemical or poisonous. The child doesn't know the discrimination power. Similarly, a person who is in ignorance, such a person loses the discrimination power, and therefore such a person is hankering behind something which is poisonous. So, running behind this wealth and name and fame is
Yeah.
running behind the wealth and name and fame is simply running behind poison, actually. That is why one who is mature, just like the child grows, and the child may not eat things which are detrimental to oneself. In the same way, the Krishna conscious, the person who has, a person who has become mature will not run behind these sensuous subject matters. Therefore, such a person will always want to grab on to the opportunity for hearing and chanting about the name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Lord. So that is why a person in knowledge will hanker behind or hanker after the association of devotees. Because as he is here being explained, that Mahatsevam Dwaram Afartunam says that only in the association of devotees one gets the opportunity to hear and chant about Krishna. And that is the worthy investment, and that is something what one should grab onto, rather than grabbing on to these material accolades. So that is maturity. So there is only one way to get out of the ignorance. So, yeah. Tamasoma Jyotirgame. One has to move towards light. When one has to move towards light. When one understands there is darkness, how does one understand there is darkness in this world? The darkness is perceived by lack of discrimination, by confusion, by bewilderment. So the bewilderment, the confusion, that is characteristic of darkness. When one doesn't understand what to do, there is darkness. So this darkness also is manifested in our hearts in the form of lust. In 336, the Lord explained that there are three coverings of lust, three different types of coverings of lust. They are all, so these modes basically create these darkness, and as long as we grab onto these modes or attach to these modes, there is darkness. Just like a fire is covered by smoke, or just like a mirror is covered by dust, or just like an embryo is covered by the womb. So the fire covered by smoke, that there is that potentiality. Prabhupada says there that every human being has that potentiality. So there is that potentiality that yes, one can invoke or awaken one's Krishna consciousness. Uh, then Prabhupada explains that okay, from the rajas, the platform of the cleansing it takes place because the mirror one cannot see oneself. Similarly, we cannot see what is beneficial to us, what is not beneficial to us. So by the practice of bhakti, the dust has to be cleared. Then one will be able to perceive. And the tamoguna is a stage of helplessness. So therefore, in ignorance, one is helpless. So either one is confused and bewildered, that is the characteristic of rajas, or one is completely helpless. That one is completely helpless. Okay, so that's why it is being said that one should walk. So when we realize that there is darkness in my life, one should move towards light. And where from the light comes? From the sincere devotees of the Lord. That is why one should always move towards the association of devotees. And but we have to understand our connection to devotees is not just through hearing, but through service as well. We connect to the spiritual master and the acharyas through service. Many times we connect to the devotees through service, the mission. Okay, so let's read further then. Yes. So here we have text 40. भूद्वीपा वर्षसरिद् आर्द्रिनाभ समुद्र पातालदिन नरकाभागनः लोकसंस्था गीतामया तव नृपा भूतम् ईश्वरस्य स्थूलं वपु सकलजीवनिकाय धाम. My dear king. Okay.
Okay. My dear king, I have now described for you this planet Earth, other planetary systems and their lands, varshas, rivers, and mountains. I have also described the sky, the oceans, the lower planetary systems, the directions, the hellish planetary systems, and the stars. These constitute the Virat Rupa, the gigantic material form of the Lord, on which all living entities repose. Thus, I have explained the wonderful expanse of the external body of the Lord. Purport. Oh. Purport by Srimad Krishna Janarvan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 5th canto, 26th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Description of the Hellish Planets. So choices are for
exercise the right choice and rejoice.
Yeah. Asatasang Sadi say Vaishnavachar. Krishna Bhakta बड़ा चतुर क्या है
नहीं कृष्ण भक्त निष्काम अतएव शांत.
नहीं असत संग साड़ी सही वैष्णव आचार आगे क्या है
मुक्ति मुक्ति सिद्धि कामी सकल अशांत.
हाँ मुक्ति मुक्ति सिद्धि कामी सकल अशांत कृष्ण भक्त निष्काम अतएव शांत. अरे पर्पट है प्रभु जी. ठीक है completed in the Honolulu Temple of the Panchatattva June 5, 1975. There is a supplementary note written by His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada in his Gaudiya Bhashya. Its translation is as follows. Learned scholars who have knowledge, who have full knowledge of all the Vedic scriptures, agree that the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are innumerable. These incarnations are classified into 2 divisions called Prabhava and Vaibhava. According to the scriptures, Prabhava incarnations are also classified into 2 divisions. Those which are called eternal, those which are not vividly described. In this 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in chapters 3 to 6, there is a description of Rishabdev, but there is not an expanded description of his spiritual activities. Therefore, he is considered to belong to the 2nd group of Prabhava incarnations, means not vividly described. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, chapter 3, verse 13, it is said,
अष्टमे मेरुदेव्यं तु नाभेर्जात उरुक्रमे दर्शयान् वर्त्मदीराना. Sarvashma Namaskritam Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri
Lord Vishnu appeared in the 8th incarnation as the son of Maharaj Navi, the son of Agnidhara. Maharaj Navi is the son of Agnidhara. So Rishabdev is Lord Vishnu appeared in the 8th incarnation as the son of Maharaj Navi and his wife Meru Devi. He showed the path of perfection, the Paramhansa stage of life, which is worshipped by all the followers of Varnashram Dharma. Rishabdev is the supreme personality of Godhead and his body is spiritual, Satchidananda Vigraha. Therefore, one might ask how it might be possible that he passed stool and urine. The Gaudiya Vedanta Acharya Baldev Vidyabhushan has replied to this question in his book known as Siddhanta Ratna, first portion, text 65 to 68. Imperfect men call attention to Rishabdeva's passing stool and urine as a subject matter for the study of non-devotees who do not understand the spiritual evolution of a transcendental body. In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 5, 6, 11, the illusion and bewildered state of the materialist of this age is fully described. Material forest, take him. Elsewhere, in the 5th canto 5, 5, 19, Rishabdev stated, Idam Shariram Mam. What is that? Okay, Idam Shariram Mam Durvibhavyam. This body of mine is inconceivable for materialists. वैसे भी उनके स्टूल का फ्रेग्रेंस 80 miles तक. That is not materialistic stool. This is also confirmed by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Avajananti mama muda manasham tanamashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that. With the human form of the supreme personality of Godhead is extremely difficult to understand, and in fact, for a common man, it is inconceivable. Therefore, Rishabdeva has directly explained that his own body belongs to the spiritual platform. This being so, Rishabdev did not actually pass stool and urine, even though he superficially seemed to pass stool and urine. That was also transcendental and cannot be imitated by any common man. It is also stated in, and I think Nimai in his childhood pastime did something related to that. It is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that the stool and urine of Rishabdeva were full of transcendental fragrance. The Gau Mata, तो गौ माता तो भक्त है तो भगवान का वो full of transcendental fragrance. One may imitate Rishabdeva, but he cannot imitate him by passing stool that is fragrant. By passing stool that is fragrant. The activities of Rishabdeva therefore do not support the claim of a certain class of men known as Arhat, who sometimes advertise that they are followers of Rishabdeva. How can they be followers of Rishabdev while they act against the Vedic principles? Shukdev Goswami has related that after hearing about the characteristics of Lord Rishabdeva, the king of Konka, Venka, and Kutaka initiated a system of religious principle known as Arhat. These principles were not in accord with Vedic principles and therefore they are called Pashanda Dharma. The members of the Arhat community consider Rishabdev's activities material. However, Rishabdev is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is on the transcendental platform and no one can compare to him. Rishabdeva personally exhibited the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.6.8. Davanavastad vanam alehina saha tena dadaha. At the conclusion of to the side. Yes, again. Thank you. At the conclusion of Rishabdev's pastimes, an entire forest and the Lord's body were burned to ashes in a great forest fire. In the same way, Rishabdeva burned people's ignorance to ashes. He exhibited the characteristics of a Paramhansa in his instructions to his sons. Rishabhavacha Nayam Deho Dehe Bhajan Loke Kashtani Kaman Arhate Vidbhujanye Tapo Divyam Putrikayen Sattvam Shuddheti Asmad Brahma Saukhyam Tavanantam. The principles of the Arhat community, however, do not correspond to the teachings of Rishabdeva. Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan remarks that in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is another description of Rishabdeva, but that Rishabdeva is different from the one described in this canto. End of the 5th canto. Srila Prabhupada की जय 5th canto भी end हो गया, 4th canto भी end हो गया, 2 canto का एग्जाम होएगा और मुझे केवल 5.5 पॉइंट बना था. टाइम हो गया, बच्चों को सोने दो अभी.
No, the question is, what happened to this? Typo. Where's that gone? Okay, so this is the end of the 5th canto. Now, so there are two types of incarnations, the Prabhav and Vaibhava. And Prabhav has two parts. The second part is those which are whose characteristics are not very vividly described. The first one is first one. Yeah.
The first one is eternal. Prabhava and Vaibhava. Among the Prabhava, eternal, and like the second is not vividly described.
And what is Vaibhava? Vaibhava is not described.
Vaibhava is the second, not described. Vaibhava Vaikuntha.
Yeah. We are learning a very beautiful lesson here. See, in the notes, we can try to understand that, as Prabhupada is explaining, that Lord Rishabdev is actually transcendental. But the Lord Rishabdev is manifesting that he is passing stool and urine, which were of a transcendental nature, obviously. But many times the Lord manifests ordinary dealings just to reciprocate in love with the devotees. So Krishna has only one business, that is to reciprocate love with his devotees. And just so that we can relate with the Lord better, the Lord manifests ordinary dealings. But then the Tattva we say, okay, Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. So what we are supposed to understand is that even in the whenever the Lord manifests as himself as the most ordinary, within the ordinary is something most extraordinary. So ordinarily, Lord Rishabdev now is an ordinary living being passed a stool in urine. Now one may say, okay, what is great in that? Every living species passes stool in urine. Yes, but what is so that is the mercy of the Lord, that the Lord is manifesting ordinary activity just so that we can relate with the Lord. But then the second point which comes is that whatever the Lord ordinary manifests as ordinary is itself extraordinary. So yes, Lord Krishna did pass stool in urine. I mean, Lord Rishabdev, did pass stool in urine. That seems to be ordinary, but that stool in urine was of extraordinary quality. Because its fragrance was spread 80 miles. 80 miles. $80 miles. 80 miles is long distance. 80 miles means, yeah, it's a long distance. So that is the extent.
वो थी ताड़का नहीं वो कौन है कि भगवान और पूतना 8 माइल की थी 80 माइल
Putna was 8 miles, 80 miles, 10 Putnas.
10
that much the Lord's fragrance of the stool and urine. So now this is Prabhupada giving a case study here. Srila Krishna Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada giving a case study here that yes, the Lord's ordinary manifestation is itself most extraordinary. And this is what we have to understand. Janma karma cha me divya. When a devotee who understands this, Such a devotee will never be shaken up in his material life. Why? Because the devotee understands that, okay, externally in my life also, ordinary things may be happening. Suppose a devotee loses his job, she's thrown out of the job. Then one may say that, okay, in my life also, the ordinary things are happening. But if I no, but if I remain connected to Krishna and I remain practicing, that within that ordinary Krishna will reveal extraordinary mercy. That is the point. Within the ordinary, that the Lord Krishna is going to reveal extraordinary mercy. And this is what we have to learn. Janma karma cha me. So that is why a devotee is not disturbed. He may say, okay, I am okay. In my life also there is struggle. There is struggle for job. There is struggle for say upkeep of the family. There is struggle for different responsibilities. But all this struggle is going to be
Yes, all this struggle going but they struggle to struggle for the mission of the Lord. Very good.
yeah. So all this struggle is not ordinary. That is what the devotee should understand. That because now I'm struggling to maintain the Krishna consciousness, but still there are obstacles and there are problems even in the basic maintenance of the body. But this struggle is not, but my struggle to the devotee struggles to uphold the priority of Krishna consciousness despite the material upheavals. This struggle is not ordinary. This is the most extraordinary because this can transport oneself right into the spiritual world. Can transport oneself right into this. Therefore, a devotee is not disturbed. So the devotee feels, okay, if Krishna is no, is arranging for me to struggle and work hard on this frontier, let me go on working hard without any much expectations. So if this is Krishna, this is what Krishna has arranged for us. Let us heartily go on serving Krishna. That is the idea. Let us heartily go on serving Krishna.
Yeah. तुम्हारे सेवाय दुख होए जात सेई तो परम सुख सेवा सुख दुख परम संपद न भवे भवेर दुख आत्मनिवेदन तु अपदेकार होइनु परम सुखी दुख दूर गेलो चिंता न रहिलो चौदिखे आनंद दुखी चौदिखे आनंद देखी. So this Srila Prabhupada was having the most testing times, 2 heart attacks on a cargo ship, third one when he was in US. इतने कष्ट में कोई भी सामान्य व्यक्ति झेल ही नहीं पाएगा. Then he continues. Jayapataka Swami Maharaj also so many Prabhupada disciples. What they are going through externally, somebody sees, they'll think what they are gaining, but they don't know. Yam labdva chaparam labham na manyat. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, don't take away my. So the real sukh, real pleasure is to struggle for Guru. That is burden of love. This is the pleasure what Prahlad Maharaj is getting. That's real pleasure. And when one tastes that, today only his Grace Radheshyam Prabhu was telling कि प्रभुपाद जी को जब थर्ड हार्ट अटैक आ रहा था उधर तो डिवोटीज को लगा क्या इंडिया वृंदावन वापस ले जाएं कि क्या होगा. तो प्रभुपाद जी बोले मुझे टेम्पल हॉल लेके चलो. तो प्रभुपाद जी को टेम्पल हॉल लेके गए. There was throbbing pain in Prabhupada's chest. Prabhupada paid obeisances to his spiritual master और prayed कि आपका जो सेवा है अभी हुआ नहीं है. What if you want to take me now, take me now, and you want me to stay back, like, but your mission is not yet accomplished. So और फिर उन्होंने तो जब बाकी डिवोटी बोले कि वृंदावन लेके जाएंगे तो बोले नहीं नहीं, अगर मैं बाई चांस अगर कृष्णा विलिंग ऐसे होता है कि मेरा शरीर छूटता है इधर ही छूटने दो, मनहट्टन न्यूयॉर्क में मुझे कहीं फाइनल राइट्स कर देना. ठीक है, एटलीस्ट मुझे ये तो रहेगा कि मैंने गुरु के लिए संघर्ष किया और संघर्ष करते हुए मैं बैटल फील्ड पे गया. तो दैट इज अ कॉन्शियसनेस दे आर कैरिंग. Only treasure is the service of their spiritual master. That is what Prahlad Maharaj saying. Even भगवान भी सामने आ जाए तो भी प्रहलाद महाराज बोल रहे हैं कैसे छोड़ दूं तब वृत्य सेवा. हरे कृष्ण.
As evam janam nipatitam prabhavaya kupe कामाभिकामनयः प्रपदन्तसङ्गात् कृत्वात्मसा सुरसेन दीपालयन्तं सोऽहं कथं न विसृजे तव भृत्यसेवम्. How can I live up serving my spiritual master? How can I live up service to my spiritual master? That is the point. Okay, so let's stop here for today.
And just a minute. So, अगर किसी को समझ नहीं आ रहा कि क्या टेस्ट आता है तो एक मटेरियल एनालॉजी में भी बहुत सारी दुनिया तो इतना सारा प्रोफेशनल लाइफ ज्वाइन करती है लेकिन कुछ लोग आर्मी ज्वाइन करते हैं जबकि उनको पता है कि नेक्स्ट मोमेंट दे माइट survive or might not survive, means their body can get slayed off. Still some people choose to be soldiers, है ना. तो उनको पता है अभी ये देश का युद्ध हो रहा है, अभी ये हो रहा है, अभी ये टेररिस्ट आ रहा है, ये टेररिस्ट आ रहा है, फिर भी आर्मी ज्वाइन करते हैं. आई नो वेरी नाइस डिवोटी, उनकी जो वाइफ है उन और माता जी के पिताजी भी आर्मी में ही शहीद हुए थे और स्टिल शी मैरिड अ पर्सन who is also in CRPF army. Or she's taking care of 2 kids at home and still she gives smile to the husband and husband is all the time at the border at different parts. So मतलब जिसको ये वाला नशा है उसको ही पता है. मतलब उनके पिताजी वहीं शहीद हुए हैं फिर भी वो एक आर्मी वाले को ही मैरी की है. तो एक मटेरियल लाइफ में भी इतने लोग सिर्फ मनी अकमुलेट करने वाले प्रोफेशन चूज करते हैं लेकिन कुछ विरले होते हैं जो सेना को चूज करते हैं. सेम वे Sakam Bhakt, this Bhakt, that Bhakt. But Sankirtan devotee is the best devotee. That's why Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, when it was asked in the Bhagavatam class, many Prabhupada disciples were there. Who are Sankirtan devotees there? So Jayapataka Swami Maharaj raised his hand. I am a Sankirtan devotee.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Okay, so let's stop here for today.
Do you have any question? ठीक है. हरे कृष्णा. जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय. विश्वदीप प्रभु की जय. विश्वदीप प्रभु लिखे मुझे. हरे कृष्णा. ठीक है. Thank you so much. Hari call.
Haribol.
Sleep well and wake up for Krishna. Hare Krishna.